Hey guys, I've talked to a couple of people about water glassing your eggs for long-term storage. In the springtime, the chickens often lay quite a few eggs, but then during the summer and the winter months, they often slow down because of the heat and the cold, and you end up running out of eggs. And if you have an abundance of eggs in the spring, you can water glass them to save them until you can use those during those summer and winter months. It's a really easy thing to do, and all you need is a jar. I'm going to use a 1 quart jar here. You can also do ½ gallon or even a gallon. Per quart of water you need, or jar anyway, you need ½ ounce of pickling lime. I'm using Mrs. Wage's pickling lime. And you want nice clean eggs. You want freshly gathered eggs that have not been washed. If you wash them, you can no longer water glass them. So this will not work for store-bought eggs. Any size eggs will do. Don't use eggs that have any kind of dirt or poo, anything on there that you can't easily wipe off. In fact, if it has dirt or poo on it, just don't even use it. These had nothing more than maybe a feather and a wood shaving. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put our ½ ounce of pickling lime in our jar, and we're going to fill that jar part way up. It doesn't have to be an exact science as far as filling. I'm going to stir our lime. And then you're going to put the eggs in here pointy side down. The reason that you put them in pointy side down is because there's an air cell, an air sac right here. All right. They are likely going to want to lie on their sides, but when we get to where we can rearrange them, we'll want to keep them pointy side down. What I also do before I water glass eggs is I candle them to make sure that all the eggs that I'm using do not have any cracks in them. I learned the hard way that if your eggs have cracks in them and you water glass them, they do not last very long in that jar. The egg white tends to want to seep out of that shell. With a ½ gallon and a gallon jar, you might be able to get your hand in there just a little bit easier. But for ease of use, we're just going to use these tongs. All right. So now that you have your eggs in there, and I might be able to fit one more in there, you want to be able to close the lid on top of that jar. So now what you do is you fill that jar the rest of the way with water. You want to make sure that your eggs are covered. If there are any eggs that are poking up the top, add a little bit more water in there, all right? So then you put your lid on here with your seal, and you want to lock it down so that it's airtight. Okay, now these are water glassed, and I can put them in a cool, dark place. Be careful when you pick the jar up and move it around that you don't shake it or bump it, because you could potentially crack the eggs that are in there and it ruins the whole process. This lime will eventually settle to the bottom. That is totally normal. What is not normal is if you look in the jar and you see eggs and then you see white, white goo floating around. That white goo is the egg white. And often you will turn the jar and you'll find an egg that is cracked and the egg white is coming out. In that case, you throw the whole thing out, which is the reason why I use small jars, and that way I don't have to throw too many eggs out. Or you rinse them and you use them immediately, but they are no longer good for long-term storage. You can see here how the lime is starting to settle at the bottom and how you can start to see the eggs inside that jar. That is perfectly normal, and now I can set those in a cabinet and I can use them clear up to 2 years from this date and they are still fine. When you crack those eggs open, the yolk and the white is going to be a little bit runny. It'll be about like store-bought eggs. This is normal. It's totally fine. What isn't fine, like I said, is if you have cracks and the egg is seeping out of those cracks. All right? If you have any questions, don't hesitate to add a comment. Thanks, guys.